All right, part two. So in your notes, I did put in the equation for future value for compound interest. For our sake, there we go. We're not really going to have to deal with these two equations, so don't worry about those. I did want to take a look at a couple examples that are from the exercises that might help you with your problem set. So the first one I want to look at is exercise 16 from page 774. You will need to use the table on page 774, and I'm sorry that I can't pull that up on here, so just follow along with your book. But this is talking about a tax situation. So Bob was single and had a taxable income of $9,500. The question for an exercise like this is, what is his estimated tax? So he's going to fall into the category where his income is over $8,500, but under $34,500. So we're going to use the fact that his tax is $850 plus 15%. So it says in the book, tax is $850 plus 15% of amount over $8,500. So when we calculate his his estimated income tax, we're going to utilize the equations that they gave us. So $850 plus, convert this to 15% times the amount over $8,500. So we'll subtract $8,500 from his taxable income. And so then we'll simplify from here, and we'll get $850 plus 15% of 1,000, which is going to be 850 plus 150, meaning his estimated income tax, is $1,000. So you'll have a problem that's very similar to that in your problem set. All right, so let's take a look at utilizing the formula for compound interest in a scenario. And then we'll jump into the next section. So let's stop inking for a second. Get a little bit of space. All right, so when Natasha was born, her mother deposited $100 in an account paying 6% compounded annually. So that's a pretty straightforward. It gives you a principal, it gives you a rate, and then it says compounded annually. And then it's going to give us a time. So, there's a second part to this. After 10 years, the money was transferred into a different account paying 10% compounded semi-annually. So we'll look at that in a moment. So how much money was in the account after the first 10 years? This is where we're going to utilize this formula. 1 plus r to the n. We can plug in our values. So $100 at a 6% rate for 10 years. And we can, so the total amount she'll have at the end of, I'm not going to utilize that. At the end of 10 years, $0.6 to the 10th is $179.08. $179.08. Okay, so that's what she'll have when it gets transferred into this next account, which pays 10% compounded semi-annually, which seems really awesome. So let's actually bring that back a little bit. So we're going to utilize the same formula, but we're doing it for the next round. So it's a different account, different rate, different time, right? So how much money was in the account at the end of 18 years, which means now we're 8 years later from this original amount, $179.08 is our principal, and this time it has a 10%. So I'm going to put 1.10, 1 plus 10%. Whoops, I guess I should have stuck with one color. I apologize. 110%. And then it's compounded semi-annually. So if you remember from that last example, it's going to be happening twice a year for 8 years. So we're going to bring that to the 16th power. So let's put that in. So now I've got $179.08 experiencing a 10% growth over 16 time periods. And so, what's this person's name? Natasha is going to experience a change to $822.87 at the end of this experience. $822.87. And that's exercise 34 from page 775. Okay. All right. So this next section is about buying a house, and there's quite a bit of information. So we're going to do a little bit of writing. It's a little bit of lingo. So we're going to go through a little bit of vocab in the beginning. All right. So buying a house, page 795. Houses, how much down, how much a month? So the major things that we're going to talk about are down payments, interest rates, years taken to pay off, so time, years to pay off, and then penalties. We're not going to talk too much about penalties, but all right, so the lingo is, for this first section, it talks about points, loan origination fees, and then something called PMI. So a point is the fees that lenders charge to increase profit. Each point is 1% of the loan. And I'm just taking all of this information right out of the text. So I'm just going to cover it, and then if you want to revisit it, please do. Lenders charge to increase profit. And what you need to know is that 1 point equals 1% of the loan amount. The loan origination fee is typically 1% of the loan amount. Typically 1%. Of the loan amount. So it's 1 point. All right, PMI, you've probably heard of that before. So PMI is private mortgage insurance, and it's insurance to protect the lender. So private mortgage insurance, private mortgage insurance. And this typically takes place when your down payment is less than 20%. Your down payment is less than 20%. Okay. So the book gives guidelines for purchasing a home. So the guidelines that the text gives is to spend no more than 2 to 2.5 times your annual income. Okay, and then it says limit house expenses. And do not let the amount of monthly payment, exceed 28% of your monthly gross pay. Monthly gross pay. Okay, so those are kind of the guidelines that the text gives. Obviously, as human beings and people that want our own residences, sometimes we live outside of those stipulations and then we try to make it work, right? We're going to stick to kind of those rules for some of these examples. So example 1 talks about a circumstance, and we're going to kind of vet it through that process. So John and Pat Harrell are graduate students and earn a total of $35,000 annually. Can they afford an $80,000 home with a $60,000 mortgage that requires monthly payments of $710, including taxes and insurance? All right, so let's see if they qualify for the no more than 2 to 2.5 times. So if we're looking at their total annual income, so we're going to check it with item 1. Total annual income times 2.5 is probably the max for a home that they could purchase, according to the guidelines, right? So let's see what their max would be. 35,000, times 2.5, $87,000, 500. Okay, so their home checks out, right? It's $80,000, so that works. So the second one really deals with house expenses, weekly house expenses. And so we're going to see what this couple can allocate per week. So they've got 35,000. There's typically 52 weeks a year. So we're going to see what their gross is per week. $673.08. Okay. And then now let's take that to monthly. So monthly, we would take that same, we're going to look at their monthly gross, same divided by 12. $2,916.67 a month. All right, so how do we compare this to what they have going on and to see if they qualify? So monthly payments required are all right, so if we're looking at that, then we're going to check this with 28%. So 28% of their monthly allotment, and this needs to be greater than their monthly payment, right? So let's multiply that amount by 28%, $816.67. So I'm just going to write that number right here, $816.67. So because that number is greater than their payment, they qualify according to these stipulations. So this would be an affordable situation for them. All right. Before I jump into example 2, I will pause the video and we'll check out the next one.